So, good afternoon to all of you. So, I welcome all of you to my lecture session on the herbal drug technology. So, we have been discussing about this topic, herbs as raw materials. So, in this session, we will discuss regarding biodynamic agriculture and its relevance to the field of pharmacy. So, this is our syllabus in the first unit. In the first unit, the first part is over. In the last class, we have seen the processing of herbal drug materials. So in this session, we will discuss in detail regarding this part. So here, biodynamic agriculture is the main topic. So here, good agricultural practices in cultivation of medicinal plants, including organic farming, pest control mechanisms, including biopesticides and bioinsecticides, is what we are going to discuss today. Okay. So to let you know, because we all knew a little bit about agriculture. Okay. So in agriculture, various steps are there. In the first step is preparation of soil. So once the soil is prepared, then we go for sowing the seeds. Then we add manures or fertilizers, etc., for appropriate growth of the plants. And then we provide appropriate quantity of irrigation at appropriate intervals. And then we go for cleaning up the farm by weeding other plants, unnecessary plants. And then once the plants are done, we go for harvesting. Once the harvesting is done, we go for pre-processing. Then the final product is kept in storage. Okay, so this is a regular cycle as far as our agricultural practices are concerned. So it does not matter whether you are working with normal agricultural practices for pulses or herbal materials. It does not matter. Okay, so all of them, when you are cultivating a herbal plant or an Ayurvedic herbal plant for Ayurvedic purposes, even then, okay, this is the regular process that we have to follow. Okay, so when you are collecting the plant materials from forest, that means in the wild sources, then the situation is different. There we don't have anything like agriculture in that case. Okay, so these are the steps. So here, when we use the term good agricultural practices, in every stage, in preparation of soil, what are the good practices that we have to follow? In sowing of seeds or planting of seedlings, what are the good agricultural practices that we have to follow? While adding manures or fertilizers, what type of manures and fertilizers are to be used? And then in irrigation cycle, what kind of irrigation cycle we have to use? In weeding, what are the appropriate methods that helps herbal drug industry? And then go for harvesting methods, then processing, and then storage. Here, regarding the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. So in these steps, you don't find many difference between regular agricultural practices and agricultural practices related to herbal industry. Okay, so in case of herbal industry, we are focusing more and more onto the secondary metabolites that are produced in a herb. Okay, and chemical constituents that are present in a herb. So that's the reason why the third phase and the fifth phase, where here we are adding manures and fertilizers, here we are trying to protect the plants by weeding out unnecessary plants. And here we also have to take into consideration pest control. Okay, so these are the two places, the third stage as well as the fifth step. In these two phases, you can see extensive usage of chemicals. Okay, as we all knew, the pesticide residue. Okay, this is one of the key term we often hear in case of food materials, including fruits and vegetables. Okay, so pesticide residues must not be there in any kind of herbs that we are going to submit for Ayurvedic formulations. So that is the reason why the two stages where extensive utilization of chemicals is there. So in these two cases, we will have to give a lot more focus. Okay, so there come good agricultural practices proposed by WHO. WHO actually proposed these good agricultural practices. So here, the another reason why we have to focus more and more on the chemicals is, if you see the way how the herbal drug market is increasing, starting from 2015 to 2026, it became, I think, quadrupled. Okay, it has gone beyond 4 times. Okay, so the value is increasing, as well as projections are also going in a rapid manner. It is increasing. So when there is a lot of market is there, there will be a lot of pressure on the farmers to provide more quantity of authentic herbal material. So how can we increase the produce? One is increase allocation of land for propagation of a particular or cultivation of a particular herb. Second one is increase yield. Third one is increase quantity. Okay, so in case of increase in yield, increase in allocation of land, we have limited resource as far as cultivable lands are concerned. So we don't have enough lands to cultivate food grains even. So we cannot increase land allocated for herbal materials. Okay, so this is one problem. Second one is increase in yield. With the available land, how can you increase yield? We will use chemicals. Okay, synthetic chemicals like plant hormones, fertilizers, etc., so that we can increase the bulk in production. But it is going to significantly impact the secondary metabolite production. Okay, let's say you wanted 5% of piperine per 100 grams of pepper. So if this is what is needed, then if you are using artificial fertilizers or chemicals which support in a high growth in a plant material, then you will not get 5% piperine. You may get 1% piperine per 100 grams. So here quantity is increasing, but quality is going down. But what we need more is the secondary metabolite production, which needs stressful environment outside. Okay, so here that is the problem. The third one is increase in quantity. Here comes, this is actually the faulty part in production. So here what they will do, they will mix up authentic material with wasteful material, like pepper seeds will be mixed with exhausted material. So it is just like a bulking of the plant material. So these are the problems that are actually increasing. So so this is what is forcing authorities to implement good agricultural practices to stabilize the situation. Okay, so here this is another representation of the way how herbal drug market is increasing globally. Right now, so many people are dependent on herbal material, especially in the form of nutraceuticals. Okay. Now, what are good agricultural practices as defined by Food and Agriculture Organization under the aegis of WHO? These are set of principles applied for on-farm production and post-production processes, resulting in one, safe, healthy food and non-agricultural products, while taking into consideration economic, social, and environmental sustainability. Okay, what is the meaning of this? So here, in good agricultural practices, there is a set of principles are proposed. What are their objectives? To obtain safe and healthy food and non-agricultural products, including herbs. One is safe, means if you are using highly poisonous pesticides, etc., synthetic pesticides, the pesticide residue will remain in food or herb, whatever the material that is over there, because we are dumping so much of material, pesticidal material, in order to obtain quantitatively more yield, okay, farm produce. But we are forgetting one very important thing, that is the pesticide shall remain in the plant forever, almost like that. So they are more like xenobiotics. So that's the reason why one objective is we need safe, healthy food and non-agricultural products, while taking into considerations one, because we cannot implement strict some of the principles which will significantly impact the economic growth. Okay, if you ask everybody to follow certain traditions, okay, so it is not always financially workable. Okay, it is not practical to implement. So that's the reason why we have to see that economic conditions are maintained. Then social and environmental sustainability must be there. Social sustainability means, let's say you ask the farmers to implement strictly mechanization of the entire process. Okay, so then it will cause social disintegration, especially in the farming community. Farming community contains so many receives contributions from various sections of the society. So that's the reason why this has to be taken into consideration. The next one is environmental sustainability. Let's say a lot of land is available. So that has to be allocated judiciously in order to obtain sufficient quantity of food and non-food items. Okay, so food is our first priority. Non-food items like medicines or herbs, plants used for energy, and other allied, okay, materials. Okay, it is like that. For everything, we need to allocate appropriate quantity of land. The next one is environmental sustainability. You cannot dominate you cannot propagate a particular plant species and dominate over the environment. Okay, so you cannot destabilize the environmental conditions. So these are the reasons why good agricultural practices were implemented. So there are so many principles are there, but we are going to focus more and more on the stages where chemicals are involved. The remaining stages also we will discuss in different chapters in our syllabus. Okay, are you able to understand what I am saying? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. The various issues that comes under good agricultural practices is, one is selecting certified seeds, because we have to start from authentic resource. Okay, certified seeds. Second one is prepare land by taking technology. Okay, here by using laser, land leveling has to be done. Then use less herbicides. Then use prefer organic fertilizers. Next one is water and protect the crops. Appropriate watering is needed. Next one, store crops properly. Next one, use technology as and when needed. The next one is rotate crops. Rotate crops so that it helps in land rejuvenation. Okay, if you are using land for propagating or cultivating only one type of plant, that is going to consume all the fertility of the land. So thereby the land may become barren. So that is the problem. Okay, so these are the segments that we have in good agriculture practices, or GAP, proposed by WHO. And here, in case of sustainable agriculture, so as a part of good agricultural practices, if we summarize the chemicals part, so that comes under sustainable agriculture. Okay, so this is divided into three branches: organic farming, biodynamic farming, indoor process. These are the three stages. The first one is organic farming. Organic farming is right now, it became a household term, because in many of our houses also, maybe during lockdown time, we are doing this one. Okay, so it's more like an ecological production management system that promotes and enhances biodiversity, biological cycles, and soil biological activity. Okay, so this is very, very important. We consider soil not as a simple dirt. Okay, it has a life, and it supports life, which encompasses microbes, multicellular organs, including nematodes. Okay, so all of them helps rejuvenate or sustenance of the fertility in soil. And the next one is biological cycles, biodiversity. Okay, so organic farming shall support biodiversity, and it follows biological cycles. What do you mean by biological cycles? Every plant or living organism has its own time scale. Okay, so that we follow that time scale. It is based on minimal use of off-farm inputs. Okay, so we don't depend on the outside resources mostly for the farming component, and on the management practices that restore, maintain, and enhance ecological harmony. Okay, we try to develop a system in such a manner that the system becomes self-sustainable. So the agricultural production without the use of synthetic chemicals such as fertilizers, pesticides, and antibiotics. In organic farming, there is complete absence of synthetic chemicals such as fertilizers, pesticides, and antibiotics. In fact, we don't use any antibiotics at all. And in case of fertilizers, we use the fertilizers that are prepared from farm produce, no synthetic. So in the organic farming, the system of farming which uses organic inputs, as I told you, green manure, cow dung, etc. for cultivation. Okay, that is organic farming. So in case of organic farming, why we need to implement this? In case of excessive use of chemical fertilizers reduces fertility of the soil. This is what we know. Further fertilizers, some traces will remain with the food. The next one is excessive use of chemicals led to soil, water, and air pollution. For your information, agriculture sector is one of the most polluting industry in the world. So it became most polluting because once the crop cycle is over, okay, watering of plants is done, the water will be released into mainstream canals. So we are straight away dumping all the chemicals into mainstream canals. So thereby extensive pollution will be there. That is the problem. And here the organic farming helps in conserving ecosystem. It promotes sustainable development. It is inexpensive. It is inexpensive because it is self-sustainable. So we don't depend upon outside synthetic chemicals, etc. for our farming. So it reduces expenses significantly. And there is increased demand of organic products due to safety of food. Okay. So this is going to be a very, very important point for us, because as you all knew, pesticides are designed in such a manner that they remain in the biological system. So once they enter into the biological system, it cannot be metabolized. It cannot be metabolized. Then what will happen? It cannot be metabolized. So it will accumulate. It will accumulate and ultimately lead to toxicity. Toxicity. So most of the diseases like cancers, many cancers are right now linked to organic pesticides that are irrationally used in vegetables and fruits section. In organic farming, these are the components that will be there by default. One is vermicompost, green leaf manures. Whenever leaves are there, so the leaves will be used for preparation of manures. Crop rotation will be there. Biological management. Biological management means naturally how the system used to stay. Like when rats are there, rats are killed by snakes. Snakes are killed by birds. It is like that. So that cycle is there, life cycle. So biological cycles are maintained. Then animal husbandry is a part of organic farming. Let's say if you are farming in 10 acres of land, half acre land you will dedicate for animal husbandry, so that animals like cow dung that is coming, that will be used as a manure. And here the plant material that is obtained will become food for the animals. Then biofertilizers are used, manures are prepared in the same segment. Okay, so in this way the system will become self-sustained, and throughout you don't see any scope for dependence on the outside world, especially for fertility and pest management. These are some of the examples of green leaf manures that are used for organic farming. Especially this is very popular, Azadirachta indica or Vapa, neem. Okay, and the remaining are also there. So they are all Pongamia glabra. This is you can see these plants. A lot of these plants are there near Andhra University. Okay, so all these the cassia, fissulata. Okay, so all these are used for preparation of manure. These are some of the fertilizers that are used for organic farming. One is compost. Compost is made from waste plant materials or food materials, and then blood meal, limestone, manure obtained from cow dung or something like that, alfalfa meal, chetaderon, bone meal from horns, etc. Liquid seaweed, commercially prepared blends are also used. Okay, these are some of the biofertilizers that are right now being used in organic farming. So that is about the organic farming. Right now we will see the biodynamic agriculture. So the term itself is interesting. Okay, bio and dynamic. So what exactly is biodynamic agriculture? Biodynamic agriculture incorporates the beneficial use of the cosmic energies into cultivation of plants, together with systematic inputs of mineral, plant, and animal nutrient to the field. Cultivation practices are carried out according to the biodynamic calendar. Okay, so if I use the term cosmic energies, you may think like I am talking something about non-science or nonsense. No, it is not like that. Every plant will have cycle. Okay, so at one point it will bear flower. At one time, in one season, it will bear fruit. In one season, it will shed its leaves. It goes like this. Okay. So let's say if you take mango, okay, because it is summer, you can see a lot of mango in the market. Okay. So mangoes will bear fruit probably in the month of Feb, and then it will go up to March, April, May. There ends the matter, and then again you have to wait for another 7 months to see the fruit bearing. Okay, so you will first see half done fruits during Ugadi. Okay, so Ugadi festival. So at that time you will see for the first time the mango fruits. Okay, so they follow some season. So if you wanted mango to be grown in December, it is not possible. It is not possible. Okay, so if you do something like this, it puts a lot of stress on the plant, which may lead to unnecessary problems. Maybe the fruit quality may get damaged, and also secondary metabolite production may alter, so that you may see something called as fruit, but it will not be your natural fruit. Okay, so that is against the current good manufacturing or good agricultural practices. So the good agricultural practices stresses upon following the biodynamic calendar. So at what point you have to sow the seeds, at what point you have to provide water, at what point you have to provide manure, at what point you have to do the harvesting. So all these things must happen according to the biodynamic calendar of an appropriate plant, and not up to your requirement. Okay, so that is what one has to understand. So in biodynamic agriculture, that particular method is strictly followed. That is one. The second one is systematic inputs of mineral, plant and animal nutrient. Okay, so it takes into consideration all mineral nutrient, plant nutrient and animal based nutrients are to be prepared and provided to the plant. Okay, this is one thought process. Considering that plants are growing from soil. Soil is where everything, including minerals, plants, and animals, ultimately end up in soil only. Okay, the top soil is enriched with the material that is derived from dead animals, dead plants, as well as the minerals that are already there. Okay, so did you understand the concept of biodynamic agriculture? So this indoor process is third one, which is not very popular. So here also we consider providing the plant the admixture of vegetable as well as animal wastes and a base for neutralizing acidity. So they propose that the living things, they can survive only in basic pH, then only life will survive. So that is one of the thinking process. And the second one is microorganisms are to be there, they have to survive, so then only a plant can live healthily. So these are the two principles which are followed in indoor process. So here one specific thing is maintenance of basic pH. The remaining almost they eclipse with the organic farming or biodynamic farming. So in case of advantages of biodynamic agriculture is good for environment. It improves soil quality. It definitely has societal benefits. Healthy products are provided to the consumer and higher annual yields will be there. So as far as environment benefits are concerned, you will see total elimination of toxic chemicals from the land. You can conserve water, because water retention in those fields where biodynamic agriculture is maintained, water retention is very high, so you don't need to water too much. Improvement of water quality in the nearby water, groundwater, conservation of wildlife, reduction of energy usage, improvement in air quality because you are not going to pollute any air. Plant species may commingle. Insect habitats are not disturbed. Then as far as soil quality is concerned, as I told you, biodynamic agriculture increases soil quality, water retention, and it significantly reduces erosion, decreases toxicity, soil compaction because moisture is there. Soil will become more sticky and soil compaction will be there. Lot of nutrients and richness in quality of the produce, increase in water holding capacity, broad crop rotation will be there. So if you see a few examples of the soil that are under biodynamic farming, this is under biodynamic farming, this is under synthetic chemicals. And here if you see the impact of biodynamic agriculture, so this is a control plant where no fertilizers are provided. This plant is when you provide chemical fertilizers. And the last one is biodynamic soil. Okay, so where you have provided all organic, inorganic manure, and when you follow the biodynamic calendar, okay, soil quality, you can clearly see there is a significant improvement in the soil quality. And you do have societal benefits in case of biodynamic agriculture towards community-based farming, because we are going to engage so many people. Alternative to large scale and industrial farming, better for local economy, cuts out to the middleman, no hierarchy. As far as health benefits are concerned, more nutritious foods are obtained. As far as because I am focusing more on foods because you can easily understand this concept. Okay, so more nutritious foods, reduced or non-existent exposure to toxic chemicals, so pesticides, herbicides, etc. will not be there. And most of the food comes from this type of food or less exposure to the packaging materials used on large scale. Okay, so you don't have to use outside the chemicals that are brought from outside. So you need not bother about the packaging materials which are obviously made of plastic. So you are going to reduce that exposure also. And as far as the biodynamic farms are often used for mental health care, such as for mentally handicapped or stress out people. So here you will find such an environment where stress will be very, very less because we are at peace. We are following a biodynamic calendar. So you will have stress only when you are in a hurry. It is more like that. Further, in case of industry, the produce obtained from biodynamic agriculture, especially the herbs, are of high quality and no pesticidal residues will be there, so that the herbs are always amenable for export quality materials are obtained. Okay, it is more like that. There are disadvantages, just like any other system. No system is perfect all the time. So it can be implemented effectively on small scale. Okay, but agriculture today is about mass production. Means thousands of acres are to be used for our production. This is labor intensive because if you see the stages, preparation of manure, distribution of manure, it is labor intensive. Okay, though with the latest technology, labor intensive processes can be automated. Yeah, it is possible right now. It is possible that it can be a little bit more expensive. So in the market, you will see the produce obtained from organic farming are always on the higher side as far as cost is concerned. And here, this is again is the mainstream. Okay, so you are going again is the again is the regular practices in agriculture. Okay, if your neighbor is using synthetic pesticides and getting more produce, then you will be in trouble. Okay, because he is going to get more produce, more profits, and you will be under stress. So this is one thing that one has to think of. If it can be upgraded with the latest technology, okay, everybody can follow biodynamic agricultural practices. Okay, so with this we'll go to the next part, that is techniques used for pest control. Are you able to understand biodynamic agriculture? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So in case of pest control, this is the last one. In case of pest control, you can see heavy usage of chemicals. Okay. So normally, in case of pest control management, the first methods that are more preferred is mechanical methods, where collection. Okay, we employ people to collect eggs, larvae, pupae, adult insects, etc. are collected and killed. The second one is trapping. Okay, these we know. Okay, how do we catch rats and mice, other flying insects, etc. The next one is pruning and cutting. Okay, branches and shrubs which caterpillars are gathered, they are selectively removed by pruning or cutting. The next one is burning. If pruning is impossible, it is practiced that we simply burn the plant to avoid spreading it to the other plants. The next one is hand picking. If weeds and large green larvae are removed by using hand picking method. And then manual shaking and beating. Okay, so some chemicals like kerosene water mixture is kept under the infected plant to collect the falling insects when branches are shaken or beaten. Okay, so it is like that. All these are mechanical method, involves manual labor, and it is lot of labor intensive processes. In most of these processes, we don't use any chemical. We don't use any chemical on the plant. On the plant. The next one is chemical methods, where when insects are there, we use chemicals which we call them as insecticides. They are meant for killing the insects. Okay, so here we have three types. One is natural insecticides, inorganic insecticides, and organic insecticides. Okay, so here natural insecticides like nicotine, pyrethrum, neem extract, etc. So all these, and right now we have even more. Neem, from neem you can see neem oil, neem seed powder, neem leaf extract. You can see all these are natural insecticides. Okay, some more inorganic insecticides are also there, and organic insecticides are there, organophosphates, etc. Okay, so these are highly poisonous, and now people, these are extensively used, but right now people are flipping from organic to natural. Along with this, farmers also follow two regular processes, that is deep plowing is used to eradicate weeds at early stages of insects, and also crop rotation. Crop rotation is also done. Further, in chemical methods, we do have rodenticides to use against rats and mice. Okay, so here also synthetic as well as natural are there. So here you can see rodenticides like warfarin, arsenic trioxide, thallium sulfate, etc. And natural rodenticides are red squill and strychnine. So these two are natural rodenticides. Fungicides are also used for killing fungi. So especially the plant materials, when they are exposed to moisture as well as starchy material, if it is there, fungicides are to be used. Okay, so here we have protective fungicides are there, seed disinfectants, wood preservatives, and eradicating fungicides are also there. Okay, in case of protective fungicide, they are used as sprays, okay, on leaves and fruits. Seed disinfectants are used before sowing. Okay, before sowing, the seeds are cleaned with these disinfectants. Wood preservatives, they will help in reducing fungal diseases to wood section, okay, trunk section. It is like this. Next is, we do have environmental methods, where by using natural environment, we try to control the pests or insects. Like by simply spreading a layer of oil, we can control mosquito larvae. Okay, And then the next one is biological methods, where we link up two species together so that one will feed on the other. Like rabbits destroy certain weeds, cats, owls, kites, etc. They are enemies for mice and rats. So these are encouraged. These are encouraged in following biodynamic agriculture. Okay. So friends, with this I conclude today's lecture session. So today we have seen the significance of biodynamic agriculture practices as good agricultural practices. So here we focused on two things. One is fertilizers. The second one is pesticides. Okay. So in fertilizers, we do have organic farming, where we use fertilizers that are obtained from natural resources. So our main objective is to obtain quality and safe materials free from synthetic chemicals. Okay. So all of you, are you able to understand these concepts? Thank you so much for your patient listening. So we'll meet again tomorrow.